Hello and welcome to the Cinematic Summary channel. In this video, we'll give you an easy and quick rundown of another critically acclaimed film. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give the video a like if you enjoyed it.
Federal agent Aaron Falk returns to his hometown after 20 years for the funeral of his childhood friend Luke, who allegedly killed his family and himself. As Falk investigates, he uncovers a long-buried mystery surrounding the death of a teenage girl, which he believes is connected to Luke's case. Falk struggles to prove Luke's innocence and his own while facing the hostility of the drought-stricken community. If you want to know the end of this story, follow the video. The movie begins in the city where federal agent Aaron Falk receives a message from Jerry Hadler, the father of his childhood friend Luke. Hadler says Falk cannot miss Luke's funeral and is expected there. Newspapers say that Luke committed suicide after killing his wife and son, sparing only his baby. Falk looks at a note written, "Luke lied. You lied. Be at the funeral." Then he heads to the town of Kiwara, listening to news about the drought that has already affected 70% of Australia with 324 days without rain. At Mass, Falk has memories of himself, Luke, and their friends Gretchen and Ellie having fun at the river. At the end of the ceremony, he meets Gretchen, and the two blame themselves for not knowing what could be happening with Luke. Falk goes to the river he used to swim in as a child, but it is dry. He remembers Ellie being found drowned by the authorities, and her father crying. Later, Falk goes to Luke's parents' house and meets his surviving baby. Barb, Luke's mother, says that her son did not kill his family or himself, and asks for Falk's help to investigate the case. Jerry asks him to look at the farm's accounting books that the parents left to their son, as there could be debts that led him to his death. Upon leaving the house, Jerry says he knows that Falk and Luke lied on the day of Ellie's drowning when they said they were hunting rabbits. Jerry suspects that if his son had drowned the girl, he could have also caused a tragedy with his own family. The detective says he will look at the books and then leaves. In the car, he remembers Luke playing with drowning Ellie in the river. Falk goes to an inn and has a beer when he is provoked by Grant Dow, Ellie's cousin, who says he has been dreaming about him for years. Also, there is Mal Deacon, Ellie's father, who, due to his age, confuses Falk with his father, reprimanding him for returning to the town of Kiwara. The two blame Falk for what happened to Ellie, so he leaves when he feels the inhospitable atmosphere. In his room, Falk remembers leaving the river with Ellie upset with Luke's games. Grant drunkenly wakes him up in the halls, calling Falk a murderer and liar, wanting to confront him about his presence in the town. The next day, the detective goes to Luke's farm and meets Greg Rako, the local sergeant, searching the house. Rako recounted that he was the one who found the bodies and pointed out where they were, as well as the surviving baby who was crying and dehydrating. Later, Falk went to the school where Luke's wife Karen worked as an accountant, and the director Scott Whitlam showed him her office. Whitlam explains that Karen made only a few minor mistakes in the accounts, but revealed that she was upset with her husband due to financial problems. Falk then met with Gretchen, who also works at the school. They visited the classroom they studied in as kids, and afterward, she invited him for dinner. Falk had memories of him and Ellie going to a tree on a high rock where she climbed to rid herself of negative thoughts. Falk remembers dropping Ellie's late mother's bracelet into a crevice, and when he retrieved it, they share a kiss. Later, Falk asked Rako what he was looking for in Luke's house, and discovered that the ammunition used did not match. Rako explained that the ammunition used in all three deaths was blue Remingtons, while Luke's property had red Winchesters. Rako then took Falk to the scene of Luke's suicide, a lake where they used to fish when they were young, but now it is dry. Rako revealed that the properties of Luke, Mal Deacon, and Grant Dow were adjacent to the lake. He also shared that on the afternoon Luke died, he was shooting rabbits with another landowner, Janie Sullivan. When Falk heard that they were hunting rabbits, he decided to visit Janie, who lived with his grandmother. The detective asked to see Janie's gun, and he explained that he had asked Luke for help with the rabbits causing trouble in his crops. Janie revealed that he provided both Remington and Winchester ammunition, and after the hunt, he stayed at home with his grandmother. Janie also mentioned that the only different comment Luke made on the day he killed Karen and their son was, "Damn women, they always complain about something." That night, Falk meets Gretchen at a restaurant and talks about old memories. Gretchen believed that Ellie needed support after losing her mother and hating her father, but ended up committing suicide. She thought that Ellie's relatives used Falk's letter, found on her body, as a pretext to avoid feeling guilty for the girl's death. They went to the inn and encountered Grant, who warned Gretchen to be careful around Falk. Grant insults Falk and tells him there was nothing to find in the town. The next day, Barb found some of Karen's books among the family's belongings, and Falk offered to return them to the library. He told Barb and Jerry that he did not find anything that could have motivated their son's death in the financial records, since the accounts were in order. The next day, Falk returned the books and found an article about a tax investigation of him and a note with the name Grant. Later, the detective and Reiko pick up Grant from work to interrogate him about his relationship with Karen Hadler. Reiko questioned Grant about why Karen wrote his name on a piece of paper the week before she was killed. Grant denies any connection with Karen and angrily accuses Falk to use rabbit hunting with Luke as an alibi for the murder of his cousin. Later, Falk asks Reiko for the city's surveillance camera recordings to track Karen's movements on the day of the murder. Reiko starts with the school cameras and finds footage of Karen leaving 2 hours before the murder, and 2 hours later, the school principal, Whitlam, arrives by car. They later go to see the car that Luke was in on the day he committed suicide. Falk has a vision from the past where Luke tries to help Ellie, but she tells him she doesn't need anything. Falk remembers asking Ellie if she needed help, and she kisses him and says goodbye. He then writes a note saying, "Meet me at the river, Aaron." Then he runs to deliver it to her. As Falk goes outside, he finds a dead calf under his car and flyers scattered around the town with his and Ellie's photos, labeling him as a murderer. He goes to a bar to find Grant and encounters Whitlam trying to calm him down and offering him a drink at his house. Falk has a memory of himself bathing in the river, waiting for Ellie to show up. Whitlam removes his bicycle from Falk's car and helps him clean it. Whitlam's wife, Sandra, shows Falk the trembling voicemail message she received on the day of Karen's death, informing her that her son wouldn't be going to school. Falk visits his old home and has a vision of his father concerned about the news of drowning in the river, thinking it was him. In the vision, he runs to the river and finds Ellie's lifeless body being pulled out of the water, with her father crying. At night, the detective has dinner at Reiko and his pregnant wife Rita's house. She expresses concerns about Reiko not sleeping and hunting a serial killer. In another vision, Falk remembers Luke climbing in through his window's house and telling him that they found his note on Ellie's body and that they were suspecting him. Falk says that he waited for her, but she never showed up. So Luke suggests they arrange a lie, saying they were hunting rabbits that day. After, Falk's father is interrogated and denies knowing where his son was that day. Falk tells the police that he was rabbit hunting with Luke. At night, they threw a bottle at Falk's door, and someone yells calling him a murderer. Outside, they found a calf dead on their doorstep. The next morning, Gretchen shows up saying they need to go to Ellie's funeral, but Falk and his father leave town. Falk visits Ellie's grave and encounters Mal Deacon calling his father a coward and him a liar. Falk questions how Deacon could be so certain that he and Luke were not together that day. In another memory, Mal Deacon chases him and his father on the road until the city limits, ordering them to leave. Later, the detective makes his way to Gretchen, who is shooting rabbits. They then go to her house, where he notices loan requests for the school funds that Karen worked for and Gretchen had to organize. As they drink, he meets Gretchen's son. Later, she shows him a photo album of them in the past, and they kiss until the phone rings. As he looks through the album, Falk sees a picture of Luke holding Gretchen's baby and suspects that Luke might be the child's biological father. When Falk presses Gretchen for photos, the child's birth certificate, and other evidence, Gretchen becomes defensive and throws him out of the house. Falk goes to the inn and finds Sandra looking for Principal Whitlam and learns that he goes there every night to drink and gamble. When Falk returns to his room, Reiko was waiting for him at the door and tells him they have accused him of assaulting Mal Deacon when he was visiting his daughter's grave. Reiko is angry that rumors of Ellie's case are being investigated again, and by the same detective who is also the prime suspect. Falk informs Reiko that Ellie and Luke's cases are connected, and that is why he is investigating. During the night, Falk wakes up and goes to Gretchen's house. He sneaks in through the back door to look for Karen's old work. He finds a $70,000 student loan for Director Whitlam. Falk goes to Reiko and explains that Karen was not afraid of Grant Dow, but that she was talking about an educational project called Grant, which was the name given to the funding in English. Falk presumes Karen had told Luke about it, and he pointed out an investigative article from the newspaper, thinking about asking him for help. Falk informed Reiko that Director Whitlam is addicted to gambling, and when Karen uncovered the loan, she confronted him as the accountant. He concludes that the director always rides a bicycle, so why does the camera footage show him in a car on the day of the murder? They contact the finance company, which confirms that they approved and transferred the $70,000 loan, but now they cannot get the money back. Principal Whitlam returns to the office and receives word that the education fund has asked him to call back urgently, so he runs away. Falk and Reiko go to the school and discover that the director was missing, but his daughter was still in the classroom. They see Whitlam running away and chase him into the forest, where he is holding a gasoline can and a lighter. He confesses he owed money and that his family had been threatened with death, so he needed the funding to save them. Reiko says that a spark of fire would ignite the entire region, which is as dry as a haystack. Falk warns that this would kill all the children in the school, including Whitlam's daughter. Whitlam douses himself with gasoline and asks them to tell his wife that he did not want to hurt the boy. He then sets himself on fire. Falk and Reiko jump on top of him and try to prevent a fire. On the next day, both Falk and Reiko wake up in the hospital with injuries. Rita Reiko tells Falk that they were able to save the city and the school from the fire. Later, Falk meets Barb and Jerry Hadler in the hospital, who thank him for what he did. Falk pays for his hospital stay and leaves the town, where he finds Gretchen waiting for him outside. Gretchen tells Falk that on the day of Ellie's death, she saw her heading toward the river. She admits to lying as well, as she was leaving with Luke that day. After, they say goodbye. Falk goes to the tall stone tree and finds Ellie's backpack, which has aged over time with her diary inside. The diary tells the sad story of Ellie, who suffered from depression because her father threatened and beat her. She wrote that her father called her by the name of her mother and hit her with very hard punches. Ellie wrote that her mother also hated her father and ran away, promising to come back for her. However, her father threatened to kill her if she ever came back, and she never did. Ellie wrote in the diary that she felt the need to run away and start a new life in a new place with a different name. The last words in the diary were, "Goodbye, Ellie Deacon, it's time for a new life." Falk cries, and a scene from the past shows. In it is Mal Deacon ordering Grant to stay in the car. Afterward, Deacon and Ellie cross paths, and we hear only the sound of her struggling in the water before she drowns. The film ends with Falk taking Ellie's backpack and walking back along the dry riverbed.
So, did you like the video? We'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions on the movie, so please leave a comment below. Also watch other of our summaries of the best movies in cinema. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in our next video.